Awesome.
Welcome to Jimmy Daytona Show. Today, I have one of my best friends joining me, Clair Wyant. He and I have had a tradition of taking road trips to see Patriots games and building big vacations around them in Arizona, Nolans, and Nashville. And we have some future games perhaps in store in the next few years as well. I wanted to reminisce about these trips, figure out what parts he liked best, and explain, how he started this really cool tradition. Take it away, Claire.
Thank you, James. I'm definitely excited to be here, be one of your first guests on this podcast. Sure, it'll be very, very successful, and just really looking forward to talking about some of the trips that we've made together, and a little bit about the future, a little bit too.
That's wonderful. Tell me how you came up with the first Arizona trip.
Well, just some background here for everybody here. You're in Massachusetts. I used to live in Massachusetts, and we met while we were working together at a mutual company that we were both working at. And on top of that too, I knew somebody else out there too. And obviously, you two guys have met and became friends. And then there was a time there where it was time for me to head back to Arizona, which is my home state. And but I have kept up though with what the Patriots have been doing. So I started following the Patriots basically the moment I arrived in Mass, and still do to this very, very day. I even get Sunday tickets so I could try to watch them if they're not on local TV here. And we I know at least both of us, we had talked about you coming out at some point to Arizona, just to check out, basically check out the place. And then when the schedule came out, what was it like? Well, I check the time now, about 5-6 years ago now. We the Pats were playing Cardinals for a Sunday night football game. So it was just very natural that you would come out for that, and our mutual friend Chris would also come out for that as well too. So yeah, it basically kind of all started just coming out here for the Sunday night football game, and then after that, there were places I wanted to visit, you wanted to visit, and it just became basically like an unofficial annual tradition that we would all go. At least both of us would go to a Patriots game, but then plan like some sort of place that we all wanted to go check out at the same time.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I remember we came across some really good food and beer, and Arizona's got some really good food, especially big breakfast food, Sweet Republic, In and Out, all sorts of good Mexican restaurants. So what are some of your favorites out that way?
Well, obviously I live here, so this is just normal, but I feel Phoenix does have a very underrated breakfast city. The places over here for breakfast have even gotten better since you've even been here. So I remember that I took over Matt's big breakfast. That's still a very popular spot. I'll admit I don't really go there all that much, just personal habit. But that's definitely without a doubt a good spot. Remember I brought you over to the Vig. That's like a place like, if you are stumped where to bring somebody, you can't go wrong. Bring somebody there type of place. They have a little bit of everything with a really good atmosphere, and brought you over to McFate Brewery. I remember too. The beer that they have there is really good, but then they also have some really good food. It's a combination between a brewery, bar, restaurant type of atmosphere area, and they have that place you can sit outside, inside as well too. So the ambiance in there is really good on top of the good stuff that they serve there.
Yeah, I remember my first night there. We went to Bianco's, guys from the Bronx originally, and had some really good margarita pizza. Just the way the pizza crumbled on my tongue was just so amazing. Just having a glass of red wine. Remember going to see the remember meeting Chris and Mary for the first time, along with Brad at the Phoenix Ale House later on, and then going to Zips.
Which is unfortunately no longer a thing. But
yeah, sadly, things change over the years. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, just to keep it short here, they ended up getting bought out, and the company that bought them out, they changed their name, they changed up their food selection and the beer selection, and then soon after that, that particular location we went to, they shut it down. They have another location out in Scottsdale. That one's still up and running. So.
Yeah, I remember game day, the second day we were there. We went to Matt's Big Breakfast. We went to that Melchi Catholic Church, and these really friendly Lebanese folks were wanting us to stay for coffee, but we really needed to start pre-gaming for the game.
Yeah, obviously, given Phoenix, it's very much of a car type of place. Yes, there is a light rail, but back at that time, the light rail did not go out to the place where the Cardinal Stadium is, and it still doesn't. I'm not going to get into the reasons why. I don't even know why, but it doesn't. And you really have to plan and budget when you do go out to that particular area. It's also, for the people who don't live here, it's not in the center of town. It's also not in the outskirts either. It may appear it's in the outskirts. It's, in my viewpoint of what outskirts are around here, it's not. But you definitely have to plan and budget on your time getting over to that particular stadium because of all of the logistics with like the roads, and they do block out half of the roads over there and deal with the parking and contending with where parking is. You do have to even budget time just to walk into the stadium as well. So, but no, I do remember going to that church service, and yes, it was smart to bolt out. I think we spent maybe like 20 minutes, something like that, at my place when we got changed and whatnot. And then after that, we went and left and checked out some of the tailgate at this area code they have called the Great Lawn. Checked out the area next door a little bit, which is a big shopping entertainment area. They also have the hockey arena over there too. So checked out the team store in there, I remember. And but yeah, no, I'm, even in hindsight, I'm glad we made that move just because of just how time consuming it is to get out to that area, just contend with the traffic and so on.
I remember meeting up my Cornell classmate Laurel briefly, and then we met up a bunch of your friends, and we had a few Carson Palmers. I think if I recall correctly, it was like cranberry, pomegranate, and vodka, and we couldn't have too much because it was rather dry heat out. You didn't want to be too dehydrated.
Oh yeah,
it was fun meeting up with your friends, doing a little bit of pre-gaming before the game itself. I remember going to the arena and meeting up with a mariachi band, exploring the concourse, the history of the Arizona, St. Louis, and Chicago Cardinals. And then the game itself, we were like tempering our expectations as to whether the Patriots would win, because Garoppolo was playing instead of Tom Brady after his 4-game Deflategate suspension. But what was the game experience like?
Out of all the Cardinal games I've attended, I've had some great game day experiences over there. Mind you, I haven't gone since that one game there, but I think the Cardinals do a really good job with the game day experience. Given the type of area that Phoenix is, you're not always going to get the home team fans in there. Some of the visiting teams fans, depending on the opponent and when and so on, do kind of cough up some of those tickets. But I think the Cardinals themselves, though, they do a really good job overall. I love that great lawn area that they have for the tailgating. It's like a free for all. It's organized madness in a really good way, I would say. But the stadium itself is really, really nice, and I'm very impressed that they made a facility like that here in the Phoenix area. They've had international soccer games. I'm talking about those actual tournaments, not just your exhibitions. They've had some exhibitions over there, but basically there's a high profile event going on in America. That stadium has at least has hosted it. And it's definitely in an architectural sense, it's definitely a internationally renowned area stadium. It has some really unique architecture. But I'll say though, it doesn't matter what event that I've attended in there, and I attended the Final Four there when it was there. There's not a bad seat in the house. Yes, you're in the nosebleeds, you're gonna be further away, but it doesn't matter where you are though, you're gonna get a good view. And they did a really good job of making sure that you do get a good clean view regardless wherever you are, but have like the most modern things you could think about in there as well too.
Yeah, I just remember how exciting the game was. I remember how good Jimmy Garoppolo was playing. It was a very tight game throughout. I remember Larry Fitzgerald for the Cardinals making a few catches, and I remember it coming down to a field goal attempt by the Cardinals at the end, and then they missed it. And then you and I and a lot of the Patriots fans there were just going really nuts. It was just we were so thrilled to see them win, and we remember we wound down and called it an early night that night. I wondered, and then the next day was my birthday, and we decided to climb Camelback Mountain. What was
That's
that?
definitely one of the memories I've had that sticks out at me here. I'm not a hiker, but I definitely enjoyed trying to climb up on that mountain. With that said, I don't have any plans of doing that again.
Yeah, it was just people were passing this water, and you were like, you need to get there really early. We were just trying to pay attention just so we can keep climbing, not get ourselves hurt, make it to the top and savor the view, and then get down and hit the Gatorade, hit the water. And I remember we needed some food afterward, and it was my first visit to In-N-Out Burger. I know that's an institution out in California and Arizona. What do you think of that?
Can't go wrong with In-N-Out. So In-N-Out wasn't always in Arizona. It was a purely California place. The first time I personally have been there was when I was living in California for a few years. And then over time though, it did branch out to the Phoenix area and then eventually down in Tucson where I lived. And it's you can't, you, in my personal opinion, you can't beat that place. If you want, a quick burger, but something good, go there. So.
Yeah, and I remember I was really fixing to go get some Sweet Republic ice cream. I have a friend who went to Cornell with me, Tara. We have this tradition where anytime she comes to Boston, we go to Toscanini's, or if I fly into Ohio, I go to Jenny's. And I was really fixing to go to Sweet Republic, and I absolutely loved it. What was your impression?
That was the first time I've had it. It's definitely not the only time. I'll say that, but it was good. It really was good. I'm not one who really seeks out or makes an effort to find out where all the good ice cream places are, but that was definitely good.
Yeah, some of the places I was really fixing to see in terms of sightseeing was, Frank Lloyd Wright's Taliesin West, Tucson, Sedona, Flagstaff, and the Grand Canyon. I mean, I just remember how majestic, especially the Sedona and the Grand Canyon were. Just the red rocks, the beautiful picture that God put on this earth, and the times we got to walk around and savor it all. What was it like, being at Sedona and Grand Canyon?
Well, I'm definitely glad I brought you and Chris and Mary up to the Grand Canyon at the very, very least. That is something I actually do have some deep pride in as far as the state's concerned. I will label it as one of the national wonders that is a must see around in the US. And the US is filled with some great national wonders, but it's one of those things like you just take one look at it and you're just like, how was this formed? Yeah, I know there's, it's been documented how it was formed and so on, but like, it's still like how, and it's definitely breathtaking. And I think seeing it in person doesn't even compare at all to what you see in the photos. It really, really doesn't.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, if I had to pick one place to go to out of town, it would be the Grand Canyon without a doubt. Even if it was like a quick day trip, um, seeing the Grand Canyon is definitely a must on anybody's list. Um, Sedona is a really cool, interesting place. It's definitely different. Um, when people think about the state, they're thinking about the desert. That's not desert. It's definitely unique. It's different. It's, again, with all the red rocks and so on. Um, from me being here over here, I kind of know a little bit what the politics and restrictions are like. And there's extremely tight restrictions and everything from lights to building. And when you do build, what it has to look like. And it's it's definitely, they want to keep their charm, because if everybody lived there who wanted to live there, people would not like it. And I think most people kind of realize that. So most of the people who work in Sedona don't even live in Sedona anyway. So now Tucson is my home base. I'm glad I showed you with what I did show you. Definitely showed you what I might view as a Cliff Notes version of that city. Definitely glad to show off the national park that's there, Saguaro National Park. There's two of them. Showed you one of them, and it's the cactus themselves is something that's very unique to this region, and on our planet. It really is. And so definitely glad to show you that, and the U of A campus, and one of my favorite eateries. And then of course, we had to get back up to the Phoenix area.
Yeah, I remember El Charo meeting one of the best Mexican restaurants out there, meeting my former girlfriend Naomi, who moved out that way. It was great to catch up with her.
Yep.
And I just remember you guys have some really amazing sunsets. I just remember driving up I-17 back to Phoenix that night. What a sunset, man.
Yeah, no, the sunsets over here are pretty unreal. I would not say I don't really take the time to really enjoy the sunsets, but I definitely see them at my house. I have a lot of windows in my house, and whenever I look outside and I do see the sunset up there, I definitely do try to at least take a moment to go ahead and take a quick look at it, and then get back to whatever I'm whatever I'm doing. So, but I do remember those trying to show you some of the sunsets, not only there, but just on a daily basis around here. So.
I remember closing out the trip in Old Town Scottsdale in the back of a golf cart, drinking Bud Lights at Leonardi.
Old Town Scottsdale is definitely a unique place for what it is. It's definitely cool. Doesn't mean it's you're seeing. I totally respect it. Fact of the matter is, it does pump money into this economy. If it pumps money in and it's legal, I'm not going to complain about it. But we saw the commerce side of downtown Scottsdale in the nightlife point of view and things. There is a perception over here. You tell somebody you go to Scottsdale, then that's like an automatic assumption you're going to the party part of downtown Scottsdale, and it's you're going automatically. It's the party part of Scottsdale, and you're out till 3 a.m. But no, it's a area that does have its nightlife, but there's some really cool stores, really good restaurants. I mean, the stores I'm talking about here are like your normal like mom and pop type of stores and so on. And it's definitely interesting. I'm glad you got to at least sample it a little bit to kind of get the general idea about what that part of town's like.
Yeah, it was truly a trip in full, and thanks for putting together the idea to invite us all out. And it was one of the best vacations that I ever took. And I
That's
remember the
good.
next year I saw the Patriots schedule came out, and well, they were playing in Nolans, and I'm like, Claire, let's keep this tradition going.
Ye-
What was your impression of Nolans?
So before I get to that, I do like to say here that with me in travel, sometimes I need a catalyst to go to someplace. It's easy to say, yeah, I want to go to someplace, but sometimes you need a catalyst. New Orleans was one of those places that I personally wanted to go and check out. And and right when I saw the Pats were playing there and you guys wanted to go, I was all about it. And New Orleans, I liked it. At the same time too, I I didn't. The things I liked about it was checking out that part of the country. I remember we went on a swamp tour. That may not seem too appealing, but it was actually pretty fascinating. Just checking out the culture and the atmosphere of different places, and that's one thing I really do like and enjoy with traveling. We're such a diverse country, and it was just good just to kind of get exposed to that part of the world. Um, what I really liked the most over there was the food. The food over there, I think the worst thing we had was still pretty good. And I remember, I think that worst thing we had was some random Uber Eats thing that we did. And, even though that was the worst, it still really wasn't bad in the broad scheme of things. It's that, and just like, it's just a different type of atmosphere, it's a different part of the country, different type of culture. Yes, it's a lot. Yes, it's a lot of drinking. It is what it is. But at the same time though too, it's definitely, again, it's a different attitude, different attitude, mentality, atmosphere. It was cool. I overall I really, really enjoyed it. That's one place I could live without going back to, but I'm really glad I went and checked it out.
Yeah, I absolutely love the Acme Oyster House. I really liked Eileen's Saturday night. I remember going to mass at St. Louis Cathedral, one of the oldest Catholic cathedrals in the country, and
Yep.
then just walking right over to Eileen's. I remember us going to Spotted Cat, jazz club. I remember us
Yep.
going to Dat Dog for the hot dogs. I remember meeting my Cornell classmate Veronica Brooks and her family at Toast. I guess the Able Skivers, and really cool breakfast food.
Yep.
I just remember I must have gained about 10 pounds, just, all the eating and all the big ass beers you bring down Bourbon Street. I remember Crescent City Brewery, we ended up trying some craft beer and, having
Yep.
some,
I
listening to
look
some jazz.
I look at it this way. You're with a place like New Orleans. If you come back 10 pounds heavier, who cares? You're, it's it's the experience. You're experiencing it. You're checking it out. Doesn't mean it's like a for everything. That Acme place I think was probably one of the best places I had eaten at. I remember we went to the World War II museum, one of the best museums I've seen any place, and that is highly recommended. And I just remember we picked out some random place to go eat, and even that place was really, really good. And the thing I kind of liked about it, this could be a good or bad thing. But like every place that we went to had almost like the same menu. But I would say that's kind of a good thing, just because just got to try out a wide variety of stuff. You had the catfish, you had the oysters, you had the alligator bites. Never had alligator, didn't even thought about having alligator. Lo and behold, it was like chicken nose, and the gumbo. I mean, like it was just really, really good. It really, really was.
Yeah, I remember you had been gone, but I remember hanging out with Chris and Mary and having one of the world famous Pat O'Brien's Hurricanes. Those are just those are really good drinks.
Oh, good and dangerous. Actually, Chris and we went to that place. That was like the first place that we met up at. But you were coming into town at the time.
Yeah,
So
okay. I didn't know you guys went there before
yeah.
my grand
Yeah.
entrance.
So I remember we went there, then Bourbon Street, went to a couple of places, and we grabbed some drinks, and we went to some random place, still had some drinks over there, and we end up ordering food, and that's where you eventually appeared.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and I remember the game itself. Just remember it was a pretty dominant victory over the Saints. We were chanting Brady, Brady, Brady. Just
Yeah. Yeah, so when I think about that game in there, yeah, it was definitely a dominating game. And yeah, I would say, it was a pretty good split between Pats and Saints fans. But that stadium, in the sports point of view of things, is a landmark. It's a legendary stadium. Um if it wasn't for the history of the place, I'll admit I wasn't really that much of a fan of the place. Although I did find it interesting, they did have two concourses up in the upper deck. You had one in the lower part of the upper deck, another one in the upper part of the upper deck. But there's an awful lot of history that's taken place over there, and the sports point of view and things. Everything from the Super Bowls to the National Football Championship for college football. They have one of the championship games for it's like SEC conference. They'll have their championship game there every couple of years. I mean, and not only that, to the structure itself, even though I wasn't really thrilled with it, it's still very impressive. It's basically like a big dome. It was like one of its kind when it was first built. And I'm like, out of all the venues that we have looked at, that's the one in there I'm probably the most glad that we really got to go and check out. And not only that too, I don't even know if I had mentioned this to you or not, but when we went into that stadium, I just could not I could not stop thinking about Katrina. Like, yeah, we were there having a fun time, and everybody else was having a fun time, and then there was only a football game going on, nothing special in the broad scheme of things. And I just thought about just everything that happened with Katrina, and just looked around and just thinking here, like, people actually died in this place. And not only that, too, just seeing the images inside that place during Katrina, and just trying to picture that while we were in there, it was really, really mind-boggling to me. I know I probably didn't really say much about it when we were actually there, but that was really going across my mind when we were in there. And just the whole Katrina thing with New Orleans itself too, that was something I was kind of appealed with, and I knew I was going to pick up bits and pieces here and there, and I certainly did, especially the area where we had the swamp tour. That was ground zero of Katrina. Just seeing the newer homes and how that they were built, and it's different. A lot of the other neighborhoods that we end up seeing, it was it was definitely interesting, but like in its own different way. It was a lot more of a historical context and symbolism and so on, both with Katrina, but also just like some of the previous events that have taken place in that stadium.
Wow. And then the next year, you and I went to Nashville together, and you were a little hesitant about Nashville because I know you're not into country music at all. And I remember how you famously referred to the Country Music Hall of Fame as the bad Country Music Hall of Fame. But tell us about the first night on the ground in Nashville.
So, you know what? Yeah, I don't want to say the word hesitant. That really wasn't my thumbs up place. But I'm like, hey, if you guys want to go, I'll go. I mean, I'm gonna hang out with you guys, and it is a notable city in our country. I'm like, I'll go. I'll bite the bullet, and I'll just say, the city itself, I walked away a lot more impressed than what I really anticipated. And I'm saying that in a very good way, which is why I do encourage travel, even to places where you're like a little bit unsure of. It's worth buying. It's worth trying. You never know. You can walk away very impressed. And if you don't like it, great. Well, you're gone 3 days later. You know what I mean? And at least you got to go and experience it, and you have something to kind of compare and contrast with. But just to answer your question though about the first night, though, I mean, I just remember we ended up, meeting up over at the airport, and we got over to our Airbnb. We actually walked right by we got our Uber and got over to the stadium, walked around the stadium a little bit, and then we hit up Broadway, got some really good barbecue. It's probably some of the best barbecue I've had. And then of course, went to a couple of the honky tonks and walked around Broadway a little bit, and it was it was definitely a it was just that one night in particular over there, from the way that we're talking about this here. It was definitely a really good night. Got a good glimpse on what at least what the tourist side of things with Nashville's really like.
Yeah, I love the music, love the brew, the good times. Places were engulfed with Patriots fans. I remember
Oh
the
yeah,
and Nudies, the Cadillac, hanging alongside the wall. That was like
yeah,
a fun, thing to see. And I remember the next morning, I ended up going to Church of the Assumption for the Latin Mass at 8 in the morning, meeting you there, and then we ended up going back down to the stadium and doing a little pre-gaming. I
yeah.
remember seeing this country singer, Lainey Wilson. She sounded really good. We had like $5 Bud Lights. We ended up talking to some of the local Titans fans. There was this guy with like a big truck we ended up hanging out with for a bit.
Yep. No,
Yeah, the game itself, they ended up winning the Super Bowl that year, but the game itself was not their day.
nah, the game itself was one of the worst performances. Um, and mind you here, I don't really rely the trip or the day based on the result of a football game. We can't have any sort of control over that. And after all, are we there only for the football game, or are we there to check out Nashville? But it was the football game that was the catalyst, you know. So it was the latter. When you also brought that up too, just some quick background here. We usually try to stay at some Airbnbs, except for Phoenix. You stayed in my apartment. We so we what we usually end up doing, both of us here, is we try to find good value Airbnbs, places that are going to be comfortable, or at least appear to be comfortable, but then something that's a little bit out of the center of the place. And just on a personal basis here, one thing I do like with Airbnbs is you actually get a little bit of a glimpse on how people actually live. Like, what are the homes like? What are some of the architecture like? What are some of the out of center of the city neighborhoods like? And the one thing that kind of appealed to me regarding Nashville was, it was basically as soon as you left the inner downtown area, you were in suburban country, and I really like that. We were like, what, 10 minutes away from downtown, and it absolutely did not feel like 10 minutes away from downtown. So that day there, I remember, before meeting you up after church, I found this random coffee shop. It was like Google or Yelp. I found this random coffee shop that actually ended up being one of the best coffee shops I've been to. And it was just some random neighborhood place out in the outside of the center of Nashville. Really, really liked it. Um, Jealousy, self-centered wise, I actually wanted to stay longer there. It was really cool. But I made the trip over to the state capitol, walked around the state capitol, the outside area. It was really, really interesting. It was very cool. It's definitely different. It's up on the hill, almost looks like a monument type of structure, which I thought was really, really cool and really, really different. After that, I met you up, and then after that, we made our way over to the stadium. We had an Uber. I think he parked like mile and a half away from the stadium. We walked across the bridge and got over there. The thing I really liked with the Titans fans were, I think they embraced the visitors. They really, really did. And they were really cool, really nice. There were some food trucks up there. I remember having a hard time deciding what food truck I was gonna go to, because they all look really, really good. The stadium itself, I found it nice. Well, it was modest, but they still kept up on it. You could tell they kept up, trying to keep up the place so it doesn't turn and rumble, so to speak. But since it was right outside downtown, you looked out there and it was like trees all around. And I just liked how, like, yeah, you were basically in downtown without being in downtown, but it absolutely didn't even look like it. And I mean, overall, I had a fun game day experience over there. And in light of the Patriots losing, overall, I definitely like the stadium and the experience that we went through there. And it was definitely I would definitely call it in a fan friendly point of view on things.
Yeah, I remember how people were really friendly. When I went to church, I was dressed more for football than I was for church. And the people, this couple brought me up to the second row. And I wanted to go A because I wanted to go before the game, and B because it was a Latin mass and I usually prefer older style liturgies.
Yeah.
It was just everybody was so friendly. They were saying, "Oh, you can just sit here." It was a microcosm of how friendly the people of Nashville were,
Oh
and
yeah, they were.
that was a really good impression. I remember after the game, we were pretty exhausted. We remember going to Tennessee Beer Works, 5 Points Pizza. I remember the next night we went to Jenny's Splendid Ice Creams and Hattie B's Hot Chicken. What was that place that Big Jim of 98.5 recommend? That breakfast place in the Gulch?
Oh, the biscuit love.
Biscuit Love, yes.
That
Oh
was
yeah.
really good.
Yeah, I love the grits. I think I had biscuits and had Nashville hot chicken. It was just really epic breakfast.
Oh yeah, no, the Nashville hot chicken was really good. The pizza, that place that you picked out, was really really good. I remember that. I think we walked like 2 miles to get there. I was completely dead by the time
Yeah, I
that we
was
got
too.
there. But hey, it it was food. It was good. But obviously, both of us end up calling a night. We ended up going back to the Airbnb and probably chilled for like 2 hours before we actually called it a night. But no, like the I that's another place I'll say though, regardless where we went, the food was good overall. I remember the last night we were there, we picked out some random barbecue place. Even that place in itself, even though it wasn't up to par compared to some of the other places, it still wasn't bad, really. I mean, I walked away with Nashville itself being very impressed with the place. I remember doing a quick Google search just for like random apartments and in houses. It was about the same price as Phoenix at the time. I don't know how it is now, just because of how the housing and the rental markets have been going. But as soon as I saw that, I'm like, and even like the gas prices were like identical. So I'm just like, okay, this is cool. I mean, those are the little things I tend to kind of look at when I visit places, just to kind of just get a little better idea on what places are like, instead of just seeing the main tourist types of areas. But from the food, from the people, and the layout of the area, the traffic we experienced, I remember, really wasn't bad. And I realize it's only a small sample of the real big picture of things, but I walked away very impressed with Nashville overall as a city. One thing that we did do, which I do remember, I'm really glad we did, was check out Vanderbilt. That was probably one of the best college campuses I've been to, even though it was raining at the time when we were there. Not really quite the best weather. I was I was I was The campus itself was beyond my expectations. And it was there aren't many college campuses I could go to right now and say I could picture myself going to school here, and that was one of them. So
Yeah, one of my friends, Dana, is an alum of Vanderbilt and very fiercely loyal to the school. And it was good recounting those stories to her. Sneaking into Memorial Gym where the basketball team plays. I remember going to the Parthenon right across the street from there too. That was a fun experience. The big Athena
yeah,
statue.
no,
Um,
that was really really cool. I'll admit I was like whatever with that, but when I walked in, I'm like, this is actually a really cool place. I liked it.
yeah, I remember the day before we went to Andrew Jackson's Hermitage, checking out some presidential history, one of our earliest and you know very combative presidents, and a retrospective of his life.
That was a really interesting place. Regardless of political views about whoever XYZ president might be, and you do a better job with this than than I do, but it is cool to go see like those, either like former homes or um, even like former homes or presidential museums, these former presidents. I just find it to be very very interesting, and it was very eye opening regarding the time period that he was in, because that would make you understand better about why his place was the way that it was, so.
Yeah, they made no bones about it that he couldn't have functioned. The place could not have functioned without slaves, and it would have
Oh
gone
yeah.
backward without them. They were very clear headed about it. Not revisionist, not sugar coating. Very very clear headed.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember going. Yeah, it was just it was a nice walk, a beautiful place.
Oh
Just
yeah.
brought you back into history for good or ill.
Oh yeah. No, I dig places that are historical, and regardless of what I ever think about, you know, time period or individual or party or whatever have you. I just find it kind of interesting just to kind of go back in time like that. So it was cool. It's a place I'm definitely glad. I remember it was a big hike to get out there, but it was well worth it. It really was.
Yeah, it definitely was. I remember we ended up going to the Johnny Cash Museum, and I ended up going to Patsy Cline, which is right upstairs. And just it was like a bunch of Patriots fans crowded, and I was just trying my best not to burst out in tears because they were playing his last song, which was a cover of Nine Inch Nails' "Hurt" on an endless loop right as
Oh,
you
really?
exited the museum, and I was trying my best not to just burst out in tears. Because he was dying when he wrote that song, or when he sang that song. It was just a very cozy museum, a very good retrospective of his life. One of the best musicians there ever was.
Yeah, I remember I ended up going to Broadway when the honky tonks instead.
And I remember same thing with the Country Music Hall of Fame. I enjoyed it, and I think you were Kid Rock's honky tonk, and I think somebody was playing "Shipping Up to Boston." The
Yep.
local band. I guess they knew their audience.
Yep. No, there were definitely a number of Patriot fans in there. They were a little bit more lubed up than I was, but hey, I was just there, just chilling, just watching the live, just chilling, watching some of the live music, and check out a different place on Broadway.
Yeah, we ended up going to the Grand Old Opry at the Ryman Auditorium. I know being that country music is not your first language. What was your experience at the Mother Church?
So the venue itself, I really like. Like, I literally walked in there, saw the place. I'm like, I could still picture like a Dave Matthews playing in there. Lo and behold, when we did the behind the scenes tour, there were pictures of Dave Matthews actually playing in there. But no, the venue itself, I was really impressed with. Yes, it is small. You're not going to have your annual blockbuster concert in that place. You'll probably have that over at the arena or at the stadium, um, it was, I was really impressed and kind of blown away really by how detailed they were with the place to make sure you were going to get the best sound in there. And it was literally like right down to the bare millimeter on just the way that everything was shaped and the placement of things. And it was really, really good. And the sound system in there was unbelievable, really. So,
Yeah, and you took a solo trip to SoFi out in LA. Tell me more about that stadium. It's pretty
yeah.
picturesque.
So here, before we do get to that there, I think for this podcast, it'll be good to share that, you know, the past couple of years here, we did attempt to get this tradition going. And I still view it as a tradition that we have going, even though it really hasn't quite fallen through the way that we really wanted. We agreed upon Washington D.C. I know you've been there, done that with DC. The only time I was in DC was junior high. I mean, that's like another lifetime basically when you look at maturity and knowledge and whatnot type of thing. And I was actually really looking forward to going, just 'cause I just wanted to see all of the a lot of the real basic DC related things. But unfortunately, though, because of personal life between you, me, and Chris, because Chris moved, I didn't have the PTO time. I think, you had something else going on. Unfortunately, we really couldn't quite pull it off at that time. And then the year after that, which was basically, you know, 2020,
2020.
I hate to say, we actually had a pretty cool trip planned and lined up to go to LA because the Pats were going to be playing at the Rams and at the Chargers, and not only that 1 week. So, we had a whole thing lined up about going to LA, check out LA, and if we had time and could fit it in, go, 2 hours south to San Diego. But unfortunately, though, that didn't really quite pan out. I know we were talking about going to some of the presidential museums, go to Hollywood, check out some of the beaches, some of the people watching at a couple of the interesting neighborhoods, and potentially check out the area where I stayed at, check out some of the museums and so on. But unfortunately, 2020 had other things to say. Deep down inside, I'm a little bit disappointed that actually didn't really quite happen. But hey, it was, we had stuff going on in the world. Us two alone couldn't really change that. So unfortunately. But then this year, though, I made my own trip out to the LA area. And I with LA, I've been there, done that, and I didn't really have to make a big deal out of the trip. But at the same time, too, there were still a few things I wanted to go and see and do. So I was lucky enough to actually get a ticket for that game. And I just went to a couple of the museums and a couple of little ethnic-based neighborhoods that I really wanted to go and see. The one thing I was really proud of, though, on a personal basis, was I survived without a car in LA for 2 days. So
Congratulations.
yeah, so I am proof you can rely on the subways over there, but do have a car. I still took Uber a few times. So, but no, just to get kind of right to it regarding the actual stadium, I'll say though, when you look at the new stadiums out there or the new, like arenas, cultural venues, I was completely blown away with SoFi. There's an awful lot of hype about SoFi. There is some very impressive photos of SoFi. It is as advertised. There are definitely some things that are different with that place than what you find in some of your other modern stadiums or arenas. And I do believe, though, that some of those things at least are going to be the future of stadiums, stadiums and or arenas. Some of these things are like how the concession stands are set up. Instead of going up to this one place that looks like a bar or a counter or something like that, it was literally part of the infrastructure that kept the place up, and it was double-sided. And the bathrooms were easy to find, but also hidden at the same time because it was basically at the opposite side of those concession stand areas. So the concession stands, it was double-sided. There was one concession stand I walked up to. There was a line there. The opposite end, the opposite side had nobody over their side. I just walked over the opposite side. They had it's definitely multiple concourses. The interesting thing with this stadium is that it's a little bit in a bowl, and they have to have it in a bowl because it's right by LAX. And the FAA said to them, hey, if you're going to build a stadium here, it has to be, inside the ground. It has to be dipped down a little bit. So when you actually enter, you're in the middle. You're not at the bottom or the top.
Wow, neat.
And it was I'll admit I did buy the nosebleed tickets. I did sit up there for about the first part of the first half, but then I went down to the main concourse area that really, it served the way upper deck and then the second highest deck. And they had in the concourse area, they had these tables out there. It was like a small, narrow table. You could put your food or put your drink or whatever on there. And I just stood there, like, you do have to have a ticket to the game to actually stand up there, but it's open to anybody. And I don't know, for whatever reason, though, I had more fun doing that. Yeah, I was standing for about for about 3 hours. My legs were dead tired, but it was definitely a good experience. That scoreboard lives up to the hype. I could say it's probably too big and too sharp because you can see every little zit that Justin Herbert has on that screen. Like literally.
Yeah, he's the Chargers quarterback for
Yeah.
those who are
So
not in the know.
no, it was very, very good. Very, very cool. LA's LA. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I love how big, I do like how big it is and how cosmopolitan it is and diverse it is, the weather it has. But then you have things like your cost of living, which I know you don't really think about too much when you're just there for about 2 or 3 days. But it is truly a car culture. And if you're looking for a place where you can definitely adapt 100% to like walking or taking public transit, it's really not the most ideal place around. Um, and even if you're taking your car, you have to expect to spend a lot of time in it because of traffic and congestion. And spoiler here, if anybody's looking to go to SoFi, look up the subway system, the light rail, because there is one central spot that they have in the light rail. You could take a bus for free with your game ticket, and they bring you right to SoFi. And then to get back, you bring the same bus back. They tell you go where to go pick it up at, and they bring you right back to that same station, and you can go on your own way. It's a lot better than dealing with all the traffic. When I got back to my Airbnb, I took one look at the Google Maps traffic, and the area around SoFi was blood red still. I'm like, I'm back home. Yeah, it probably took me a little more than an hour, but I'm not sitting in that parking lot. So I would definitely advise either drive or take an Uber or whatever to whatever subway station is close to you. Go to that subway station where you can go and pick up. I believe it's Hawthorne and Lenox for those of you looking. And you just take the free bus over there. I would do that in a heartbeat over paying 50, $60 for parking and then spending 4 hours trying to get out of that area.
Wow. Now we got some Patriot games in our future, perhaps. So this year coming up, 2022, and then next year, possible. What are some places you might be fixing to go to in 22 and 23?
Well, us as a group, I know we were talking about going to Lambeau, and that would be a football focused trip. And I am all about going over to Lambeau. I really am. And, it's definitely a football mecca. It is definitely, it'd be like the first trip I would say I am going only because of the football game. I know we've been talking a little bit about like where to have our central base at and so on type of thing. Toss around like Milwaukee or Chicago or something. Or you can just do a simple weekend trip to Green Bay. But I'm definitely all about going to Lambeau. I will admit it, deep down inside, I want it to be cold. I want it to be snow. And I hate snow. But if you go to Lambeau and it's cold and snowing, what more would you want to ask for? You know what I mean?
Bring it on.
With that said, I doubt that's going to happen because the NFL, they do like to do division games in December. And then on top of that too, I don't think I brought this up with you or not, but I'm going to predict that will be a Sunday night game.
Oh, I'm sure.
And yeah, so I'm going to predict that's probably going to be a Sunday night or so. But no, Green Bay, without a doubt. They are going to be back in Phoenix. Since I'm basically next door to the stadium, and I'm putting that in quotes, so to speak. I'm definitely going to go, even if I'm just going solo. Takes very little effort compared to going cross country to go to a game over there. And then on top of that too, they're playing Vegas, and logistically speaking, for me, Vegas is a 4-hour drive or 45-minute plane flight. So I don't mind, spending a weekend in Vegas. I've been to Vegas a number of times as is. It has changed quite a bit since I've been there last, but because of how easy it is to get over there, I would not mind doing that. Of course, they do have that new stadium over there too. That does look impressive in its own way. Would not mind checking that out. But for those of you who have never been to Vegas, that stadium is right off the strip, and the strip is like right by the airport. So it is definitely very feasible to, have a solid vacation, regardless if you're there for football or not, and be able to fly in and don't really have to worry much about a car. Yeah, you need a taxi or Uber to get to your hotel, but when you're over there, though, you can walk to the different, all the different casinos. They do have a couple of light rails that you can go and take. And yeah, there's still a possibility you have to take Uber still those to some places, but you can still have a solid, 2 or 3 day weekend, just stay at one casino and be able to walk over the neighboring places and be able to get over the football game if you really, really want to. The main hotel or casino that's right by the stadium is Mandalay Bay. It is one of the older casinos out there, but that's kind of like pregame central, so to speak, and then people cross the bridge that's right by that casino to go to the actual stadium. So, us as a group, again, Green Bay, but there are two of them I'm looking to possibly attend, just because of easy logistic reasons. If I get to cut one off, though, it might be the Vegas one, but we'll see. So
Yeah, I'm considering all three. I mean, we'll see how this year plays out.
yeah,
All three are intriguing possibilities. And then next year in Dallas,
yeah,
I definitely want to check Jerry World out and the America's team, Dallas Cowboys.
yeah.
It's rich history.
Oh yeah, no, that would be a very interesting one and a football centric point of view and things. Dallas, Texas itself is, it's a different region, different type of culture, different type of mentality, weather, that whole bit. So no, Dallas would definitely be a fun one. I hate to say this here, the first thing I think of Dallas is the airport because I absolutely hate the airport over there. I've not done that for layovers. So the first thing I think of, like, oh great, I have to deal with Dallas Airport. Oh great, but oh well.
Yeah, man. Well, the Patriots are playing in Buffalo tonight, and you had mentioned maybe taking a trip to Buffalo to see him, or perhaps Miami. I know Chris and Mary have gone to see him in Miami.
Yeah. So Miami, I've been to. That's a place where if everybody says let's go to Miami for a trip, and if we're having a hard time thinking of someplace going, I have no problem going. Buffalo, I want to. I'll admit, I just want to go for the tailgate at Buffalo. The
Yeah,
stadium
break a
itself,
table.
yeah, the stadium itself seems to be like whatever. Buffalo, yeah, I'll grab some pregame buffalo wings. I'll suit my food requirement for over there. But I would not mind just walking around walking around the tailgate. I don't want to be with a tailgate and just stay there. I want to walk around the tailgate and just see all the nuts.
Yeah, just people, throwing ketchup on each other and breaking tables. And I have actually driven past that stadium. I was in Buffalo for the day and on my way to Toronto. Yeah, I got to see the Ralph Wilson statue, drive around the concourse, have some buffalo wings nearby. And I was wearing my Patriots gear that day.
No, it's definitely something I like to have I do like to keep going. And one good thing with the NFL is, yeah, you do have your same cities every year, but at the same time, though, too, you also have a little bit of a different variety just because of the rotation of the conferences and the divisions, and you skip one, well, you're gonna have to wait for like probably close to a decade for them to come back. So it's it's definitely they do a good job, I think, overall of just with the competition itself and the way that they try to balance things out. But then, you do find your reasons and excuses to go to places. And again, too, sometimes you say, hey, I want to go to some place, but you need a catalyst for it. And, this has been a pretty good catalyst to really help, like motivate, actually set aside time and have a reason to actually go to someplace. So
Yeah, build a really fun vacation around it. I treasure our times together in Arizona, New Orleans, and Nashville, and I'm looking forward to some future adventures in the years ahead with us.
yeah. Well, just to kind of give you an idea too regarding my take here at the time, in a football point of view and things, Pats Saints just sounds like a snoozer. But as soon as I heard that this is where they're playing and people want to go, I jumped on it because again, it was the city, it was the travel, it was the experiencing of that particular region area, and it absolutely was not because of the game. You know, like if the game did not take place, we would not have gone. You know, that's
Yeah,
what.
Nashville is the same thing. People,
Oh yeah,
people will pencil that one in their calendars and party all weekend. I mean, I
oh
heard
yeah.
some of the stories about Eagles fans, singing "Fly Eagles Fly" for 2 hours on a Southwest flight to Nashville, and buying up all the drinks on the plane, and just having a grand old time down along Broadway.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, just thank you very much for providing a really good retrospective of our travels, and some of your insights on food, some of the things that you notice behind the scenes, even if they're unspoken, while we're in our element there.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure a lot of our listeners will be quite excited to check out these cities in their own right, or develop some football themed trips of their own.
Absolutely. No, I'll leave this here. Us doing this trip is actually something I actually do talk to people about. This is not like, okay, I do it and don't really say much about it. I really do treasure going to some of these places because again, the places that neither of us have been to, but places that we actually do want to go and check out and see. And again, it gave us a reason to go. And if really, if it wasn't for this year, there've been a couple parts of the country I would not have been exposed to, and who knows when that push would be to actually go. Would be.
Good stuff, Claire. Thank you very much for coming on the Jimmy Daytona show. I'm really appreciative. I'm really appreciative, and go Patriots tonight.
Absolutely, go Pats.